I'm Amy. I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher. It is great to be back with you again today. I hope you've all been doing well and that the year is off to a good start for you. I hope that it has been full of lots of good stitching time. So welcome back. If you are a new friend or have just recently found us, a new subscriber, welcome. I hope that you enjoy what we're doing on our channel and that you stick around. If you're a returning friend and subscriber, welcome back. It's really great to spend time with you again. And we so appreciate all of you that make time to come and see what we're up to on a regular basis. So just want to share a couple of quick updates before we get into the stitching. First of all, if you have not heard already, one of the OGs of Flosstube is back. If you've been around watching Flosstube for a while, I'm sure you've heard the name Carolyn Mazzio floating around. Carolyn had a channel way back. I think she stopped filming in 2016 or 2017, but her channel is a bit legendary because she was one of the, if not original, one of the early Flosstube makers. She was famous for all of the beautiful, beautiful pieces that she stitched, the incredible speed with which she stitches, and just generally being a wonderful part of the Flosstube community. And she stopped filming for several years. She's been through some life changes and part of that, she has changed her channel name. So if you're looking for her, her channel is the Flosstube Stitcher now. She still has all of her old content on there. So if you're interested in seeing that, I would encourage you to check it out. But I, for one, I was a big fan of her channel back in the day. And I can tell you how excited I was a couple of years ago when she reappeared on Instagram, and now she has started filming Flosstubes again. So I think she's got one, maybe two videos out. And it is so fantastic to see her re-engaging in the community and sharing all of her beautiful stitching. So welcome back, Carolyn. If you have not heard of Carolyn's channel, if you've never watched her, please go check her out. She is definitely, she's definitely worth your time and a real joy to watch. If you hadn't heard and you're an old friend or fan of Carolyn's channel, I hope that I'm the first to tell you that she is back and filming again. So go check her out. So just a couple of things. We had a lot of really fun comments from many of you on our last video with the new, well, I don't know what about improved, but the new and improved Gary, the animated version of Gary. Lots of folks wanting to know, did he get younger? Did something happen? So I don't know. I don't know, Gary, if you want to talk about your animated adventures.
Sure.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
It's okay. I've been on the spot before. Anyway, this is where we are. So for episode 50, we literally didn't plug a mic all the way in, which rendered the audio in the first iteration of that version completely unusable. I tried to bump up the volume or whatever, and it didn't work. So we had to reshoot it. And of course, we finished reshooting that, and I got it upstairs and realized that on my camera, you have to have the body set to manual focus as well as the lens set to manual focus, which we didn't do. Or in this case, autofocus, because we're using face tracking. And anyway, needless to say, my video was you could call it soft or out of focus. Out of focus is probably the best way to put it, but it was out of focus. And I was like, I'm not shooting a third version of episode 50. So here we are. I'm pretty sure I'm in focus now. But if you see another animation anytime in the future, it's because for somehow I did not get myself in focus and we were not shooting it again. So that's how that works. And actually, someone asked how I did that. And I don't remember, I'm sorry, I don't remember their name. But it's not really anything that's difficult, really. There's a program called Adobe Character, and you just pull in the audio, but you want to tweak the audio so it's a good, clean, and loud enough signal. You just pull in the audio and do a couple of clicks, and it'll automatically sync the animation to the audio that you plug in, and then you can save it out as a file, whatever, MP3 or MOV file. And then I just splice it into the video as I normally would. So anyway, that's how that was done and why it was done.
Episode 50 was a little bit ill-fated from a technical standpoint, but I'm sure that's because it was a milestone.
I'm sure. In fact, if you look at it now, if you look at the beginning of it, Amy looks a little blue, which is where I didn't get the white balance right, excuse me. So basically she's kind of like a Smurfette in that video. I know you're all going to go back and look and go, I didn't notice it before, and now you're going to see it. Trust me, she's a wee bit blue. She's not upset. Everything's fine. It's just her color is a wee bit blue. So we're going to call that the Smurfette version of our show, if we call it a show, of our installment, I guess. Anyway, that's enough from me.
Yeah, if you've ever wondered what Gary and Amy would look like as Smurfs, now you know. Well, you know from one of us. One of the other things from our last video, I had talked about my birthday and having had a December birthday, and we had so many responses on that, so many sweet comments. I was shocked at how many of you out there also have December birthdays. Clearly, I'm not the only person who has experienced your birthday's in December, so we're going to combine it with Christmas experience. But it was really heartwarming to hear how many of you, despite having experienced that in various places in your lives, how many of you have had friends and loved ones who recognize the importance of having your birthday be treated as its own special event? And so, different people, many of you, told me about your parents or your siblings or your spouse or your partner who made your birthday special despite how close it was to Christmas. And so it was really good to hear that I'm not the only person that has had loved ones make sure that that's a special day for you. There was one comment in particular that I thought was just really touching. And so I asked the person if I could share it with you, and she said yes. So I wanted to read this to you. I thought this was really, really lovely. So Stitch and Amy said, my birthday is exactly 2 weeks after Christmas. So my birthday gifts were similar to what you described. But on my 22nd birthday, I complicated things by eloping. Yikes. So now I had a birthday and an anniversary 2 weeks after Christmas. And then on my 5th wedding anniversary and 27th birthday, I gave birth to my daughter. My husband was amazing. He always made sure I had great birthday gifts as well as a great anniversary gift. He passed away 20 years ago, so that wedding anniversary is no longer an issue, but I do get to celebrate every year with the best birthday gift ever, my daughter. And she mentioned in a later comment in the exchange that her daughter really loves the fact, her daughter's grown up now, but her daughter loves the fact that they share a birthday. And I just thought, my gosh, how special that one day is a birthday for you, a birthday for your child, and a wedding anniversary. I mean, my goodness, talk about a day of celebration. So Stitch and Amy, thank you so much for sharing that story and for allowing me to share it on the channel. I thought that was just really special and heartwarming. So yes, other updates as far as we are concerned, not a whole lot to report. We are kind of in the dog days of winter here. We've been getting a lot of rain, which is very common for us this time of year, not as much as California. Hang in there, California. We know it's been a rough couple of weeks. But lots of rain. But we actually have really great weather outside today. I'm going to take the dogs for a walk when we finish up here. But yeah, it's been a really busy start to the year. It started out with a bang for me. So I've been neck deep in a major project at work for almost 3 years now. And we're within a month of sort of wrapping up the planning and partnership development stage of that project. So many of you, if you've ever worked on a major project, you'll know that the last several weeks of it often are the busiest. And so that's certainly been the experience as we've started 2023. It's just been a really busy couple of weeks. It's going to be really busy for the next, probably 6 to 8 weeks. Then we'll get a breather, and then we'll move into the 5-year implementation phase of the project. So it's, the work is certainly not done, but it's a really busy stage right now. So that's been kind of taking over life. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to report. We're kind of like getting through January, getting through winter. For those who are interested and have been kind of tracking, my dad's doing well. His recovery is continuing to progress. Slow, which is, he's struggling with that. He wants to be back to his old strength, but he's getting there. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on with us. Not a whole lot, just living life. All right, let's get into stitching because I know that's what you're all here to see. So I have got three finishes to share with you, one of which was a really unexpected finish. Probably no one is more surprised than me that this is a finish. But yesterday I finished my Fancy Lady. Many of you who've been watching for a while know I've been working my way through Celtic Winter by Lavender and Lace. I stitched this on 32 count Haunted Belfast linen by Picture This Plus, and I did the blue and silver cape conversion. I should take this moment to just mention, for those who are interested, all of the designs or all of the projects that we share on our channel, I always make sure to include a link to each project in the description box below, so you're able to find it if it's something that you're interested in. The same is true if we show a conversion. I will always include a link so you can track that down in that description box below. So the last time you saw Celtic Winter, I really thought I was going to have at least 2 more rotations on her. So I had stitched quite a bit of, I was mostly finished with stitching in the small medallion border that runs down the right side of the piece. I had filled in quite a bit of the white in her skirt, but there was still quite a big band at the bottom where the big silver swirls are. So I still hadn't done the fill in on that. And I was only maybe 1/2 to 2/3 of the way down in filling out or doing the fill in on her cloak. So quite a bit of stitching left. And here's what she looks like all finished up. She's been washed. She smells great. She's been washed and ironed. I think she needs one more go around with the iron. But isn't she beautiful? I still cannot quite believe she's finished. I really was not expecting that. But when I started working on her this week, well, and especially because Gary and I were actually supposed to go out of town this weekend to stay with some friends. And unfortunately, one of them was sick. And so we had to postpone. But so I really didn't think I was going to get much time on her this round. But I finished off the border, obviously. And then got the fill-in done on her skirt, and then just went to town on her cloak. And I had a couple thousand stitches left still to do in the cloak at the beginning of this week. And for some reason, I just flew through those stitches. It really just kind of came in together. So she got finished yesterday, and I couldn't be more pleased with her. I really, really love her. I've actually already started looking at some framing options. I think I will do a custom mat, much like I did on Celtic Autumn. So it probably, by the time I kind of pick out all of that and get her frame ordered, this probably won't be finished in time to put on the wall this year. I think it'll probably be spring before she's all ready and done. But she will be going on the wall next winter, and I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going to hang her. So that's her all finished up, and I think she's just lovely. Okay. I don't want to fold her, but I'm going to fold her since she's got to be re-ironed anyway. Okay, the next finish I have to show you is actually a fully finished object, and this is one that's been waiting in the wings a while. So many of you might remember last summer I stitched my way through the Berries and Robins set of charts by Madame Chantilly. There's 3 designs in that chart. This one is, I kind of refer to it as Valentine Letter. And I stitched this on a piece of 30 count Bolin linen by the Primitive Hair, using all the called for DMC. So it's been just kind of sitting around for a while waiting to be finished. And I started working on it while I was off for the week between Christmas and New Year's. Definitely didn't get it finished. There was no kind of about it. And I decided yesterday after I finished Celtic Winter that I wanted to get this. I wanted to knock it out. So isn't this the sweetest little pin pillow? I'm just loving it. So I decided to keep this one fairly simple. I tend to zhuzh up my pillow finishes a little bit more and do a little bit more fussy stuff on them. And for some reason, it just felt like for this one, simple was the way to go. So I didn't do any extra border or anything. I just did the trim with the Lady Dot Creates. I think that is Barn Door for those who are interested. I think this is so sweet. And then on the back, I just had this sweet little kind of vintagey fabric in my stash. And then I put a little antique key on a safety pin just to give it a little bit of visual interest. But Super sweet, super fun. I really like it. And this one, I'm really loving where it's displayed. I knew right where I wanted it to go. So every year for Valentine's Day, I have a display that I put up in our entryway. And I've had this sweet little Valentine's mailbox for years that I put out every year. And so I knew that I wanted to put this with the mailbox because obviously the bird is delivering the love letter to the mailbox. So it's just really sweet, really cute. It looks great in the whole display, and I'm really loving it. And yeah, I'm happy to have this finished and out and enjoying it. So that is my Valentine letter finish. Let's see. The other FFO I have to share with you is a finish that I showed you on our last video, and this is one I did get finished during the week between Christmas and New Year's. This is the basket from the Winter Rose Manor chart. This is just like the little small that's included. So this is Buy with Thy Needle and Thread. This was also stitched on 30 count bowline linen by the Primitive Hair, and I mostly used the called for flosses. This one's a little bit bigger, a little bit zhuzhed up. But this is how she turned out. Isn't she sweet? I don't know why it's a she, but I love her. So this is also a fabric, a beautiful striped fabric I had in my stash. And I knew it was just the colors, it's just perfect. I knew I wanted to kind of keep this a little bit more rustic and primitive. So I went with sort of a vintage lace for the trim, and then just brought in the color here. I've got an old vintage key that is hanging by a bow here on the front. And then on the back, I kept it fairly simple with, again, the matching fabric. And then I've got a couple of charms hanging here just to give it a little bit of visual interest on the back. But I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I think it's very, very pretty. And so I'm really excited. I haven't decided yet where this one is going to go in the Valentine displays, but it is going to go. So we'll find a place for it. And I think that's going to look really sweet. So that is my other finish, or fully finished object. Okay, let's see. I need to kind of rearrange myself over here. So the next thing I'm going to show you is, let's get into the whips. That's what I'm going to show you. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is my full coverage piece. I am working on Rose Trellis In by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is a piece of art that was originally created by Randall Spangler, and then it was charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. I am stitching mine on a piece of 28 count white Lugana, 2/1, using the half stitch or the tent stitch. So the last time you saw this, I had started working on what Gary called the outhouse, but it's like this little section of the house that kind of sits out on the side of the house. It's toward the back.
Came with a window.
It came with the window. And then I was pretty close to finishing the fill-in on the background on the bottom of the page, but not quite there yet. I'd gotten all the way across the top of page 19, but was still filling in down through the bottom. This is where it is right now. So I got lucky because this chart was, this was in my rotation the week between Christmas and New Year's. So since I had the week off, I got a lot of extra stitching time. I got over 5,000 stitches on this in that week. I am so thrilled with where it got to. So as you can see, I finished filling in the side of the house, this little outhouse section, we'll call it, for Gary. Stitched in these two little roofs here where the house continues down. I stitched in quite a bit of this little roof that kind of hangs over what's going to be the front entry of the house. There's a hanging basket of flowers that is super confetti heavy. So that takes a while, but that's kind of starting to show up here, as well as this really pretty kind of swirl pattern that is in the corner of, so at the corners of each side of the entryway, there's like a covered porch, and there's these kind of, pretty scroll work kind of decorative pieces that are up in the corners. And so that's what this is. And it's really coming in. Again, this piece I really enjoyed working on. I think the farther along I get into this, the more I'm enjoying working on it, because every time I work on it now, I feel like I'm really seeing the progress. And so it was really fun. I actually did not want to stop working on this one because I was enjoying it so much. So that is where I am on Rose Trellis in. All right. Next, let's talk about Gary's whips. He's worked on a couple of different things since the last time we filmed an update. So let's start with human beings. Gary's stitching this on a piece. This is by the Demented Stitchers. That's an Etsy shop. And he is stitching on 16 count rock salt Aida using the called for DMC floss. Gary, over to you.
I finished the bee. Well, that was the goal, was to finish the bee and then start working on Captain America. But I really enjoy this one. I don't know if I already said this, but I had no idea that the word beings was a rainbow. I thought it was just cool colors, but it turns out to be a rainbow. Anyway, I think that's pretty neat. A couple people asked where they could get, well, anyway, the last time you saw it, there was no bee. Now there's a bee. So that's the progress on that one. A number of people have asked, I don't know if they asked, but they said they were interested in doing this one. We'll have it in this video and in the last video. In the description, there's a link to it. So you can go ahead and get one of your own and do your thing with it. But that's where that one is. I'm probably not going to pick it up until I get a good amount of Captain America done. I'm enjoying Captain America, but I really want to finish it. I just want to finish it. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But that's where I am on human beings. And that's that. I don't know how we go into Captain America.
We can go right into it. Do you want to talk about it and then I'll tell them all the stats as far as what you're stitching on?
Okay, well, the last time you saw Captain America, I had started doing all the black that's in page 3. I incorrectly said in one video that I'm on page 4 now, but the way it's laid out is 1, 2, 3, and 4 in terms of pages. And I did pages 1, 2, and 4. Those are done. And page 3 is the only one that isn't done. There's a lot of black thread in that one. But the last time you saw it, I had just started filling in some of the black. And this time I only actually worked on it last night, so I didn't get much work done on this one. But I have put in a little bit more black. You can see how the black is going down a little bit on that one. And there's going to be a whole lot more black to add to that. But there are other colors, so there'll be a contrast there. But I don't know when this one is going to get done. I'm hoping I'm not doing it in 2024. So I'm going to try to make a push over the next 2 weeks, not necessarily to finish it, but to get it to a space where I can actually predict when it will be finished. But again, if it weren't for this one, I wouldn't even consider myself a decent cross stitch person, because after I worked on this one and then I went to human beings was much, much easier to deal with, only because of the things I learned on this. Like, instead of counting, like say you got a space of 11 black and then 1 blank space and then 3 after that, or just whatever, you can actually use other points in there as a reference point, so you don't even have to count. You just sew over to wherever that reference point is and you're good to go. So that's kind of a cool tool for me. Most of you guys already know that, or maybe you don't, I don't know. But anyway, that's what works for me. I hope some other people give this one a try. Some of you more expert type folks will probably be done a lot quicker than I was, and that's okay. But it's a fun piece to work on, and I can't wait to frame it. I don't know what to do with it. I got all my action figure stuff upstairs, so it's probably going to go upstairs with everything else. But we'll see what happens when it's done. We had an idea of donating it, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So anyway, so that's where Captain America is for now. And funny thing, this is where the whole husband and wife thing comes into play. As you can see, it's on a Q snap. Did I say that right? Q snap? Yeah, as you see, it's on a Q snap. And Amy had some rings and she wanted me to try it on a ring. And I said, I'm fine with the Q snap. We can just leave it on that. And she's like, no. If you put it on a ring, it's much more taut. I like that better than tight. Tight's, that's a bad word. Taut, that's a good word. Anyway, so she said it's much more taut if you put it on a ring. So I came down to work on it, and sure enough, it was, it was on a ring. But anyway, so I started working on it, and then we had to move it, and we opted to put it back on a Q-snap, and we realized that the ring that we used had actually left marks on the fabric where the ring was. So in the future, I'm going to say no rings. That was my foot. Anyway, and that's my dog because he thinks somebody's at the door. Anyway, so yeah, no rings, or if they are rings, make sure that they won't actually, you know, stain your fabric. We're hoping it comes out when we wash it, but who knows, right? Either way, no rings. So
to give you a little context for that, it was a cheap hoop from Michaels. That's not in any way denigrating Michaels. It was a cheap hoop rather than a good quality.
We don't know where it was purchased from. Could have been Michaels, could have been Etsy. We don't know. It was just purchased, and it wasn't the highest quality.
Much more diplomatic. Right. Okay, we're going to move on.
That's enough from my corner.
That's enough out of you, sir. We'll just wrap up by saying, for those who are interested, this chart is by Awesome Pattern Studio. It's another Etsy shop that will be linked below. And Gary's stitching this on 16 count pewter Aida using the called for DMC. Let's see. I have one more whip to share with you, and that is mine. I am stitching, as you know, Butterfly Port Mauve, also by Heaven and Earth Designs, on 28 count white Easy Grid Lugana 2/1 using that half stitch, tent stitch combination. So this design I made really great progress on. I'm super excited about it. The last time you saw it, I was at a little over 9,300 stitches. And today I am at 10,500. So I got about 1,200 stitches in. More importantly, I finally finished page 1. So let me show you what it looks like now. Now I'm holding this awkwardly because I've now moved the Q-snap down, but I wanted you to be able to see everything that's been done. I needed a little bit more space, so I moved it down. So yes, page 1 is finished. As you can see, I'm working my way down. More of these elements that are actually part of the design are showing up now. And I'm super excited. This one is coming up on its first birthday next weekend. So I think considering how infrequently this comes out, that's not bad progress for a year. And it's fun to now be getting into really the meat of a page where really pretty stuff is going to show up and it's not just going to be background. So that's where that is. And yeah, I'm really happy with how that's coming on. Okay, that does it for the whips. So I've got a couple of new starts to share with you. The first one is in my travel category. And if you've been watching me a while, you know I've been slowly working my way through the designs in the Christmas Cheer Pin Pillows chart by Jeanette Douglas Designs. I'm stitching all of them on one big piece of 36 count Stars Hollow Blend linen by R&R Reproductions. And I'm using the called for Roxy Floss Co. and DMC flosses. So this is my very barely there start on the Happy Holidays pillow. So as you can see, all I've done so far is just kind of started sketching in part of the border on this one. I started it, Gary and I went to visit his mom a couple of days after Christmas. And so we have to take a ferry to get there. And so I worked on this while we were on our ferry ride. And I'm liking how it's coming along. I'm not going to have a lot of time travel stitching is not going to be something that's going to come up probably over the next couple of weeks. So it may be a while before this one comes out again, but at least it started and ready for more attention when the opportunity presents itself. So yeah, that's the start of the Happy Holidays Pin Pillow. And finally, my other new start is one I've been talking about quite a bit over the last I've talked about it a couple of times over the last couple of videos. This is Blackberry House by Plum Street Samplers. I am doing this as a stitch along with Sarah. She's Stitch Addict on Instagram, as well as a couple of other folks. I know Karen MR, who's one of our regular viewers, she told me that she's planning to join. Bunny E. Martins on Instagram told me she's planning to join, and I think there may be a few others of you out there who are going to hop in at some point. So the more the merrier. Our hashtag is Blackberries for Dad Stitch Along, or Blackberries for Dad Sal. And I am stitching this in honor of my dad. I think Bunny is also stitching in honor of her father. She mentioned that this was a really nice and meaningful thing for her as well. So here is my start on this design. I dithered quite a bit on, not much of a start, is it? But it is a start. I dithered quite a bit the week that I started this. So this also happened to coincide as a New Year, New Start. Although I didn't start it on New Year's Day. It was a couple of days into January, to be honest. I had 2 different pieces of fabric picked out. I am actually stitching it on 36 count Platinum by Zweigart. But I had a different piece of fabric. I was debating stitching it on like a heather kind of purple color that was really pretty. And I ended up going with this one after going back and forth, just because the flosses popped a little bit better on this fabric. And this is also much more similar to what's called for, what shows up in the sample photo for this. This one it didn't get a lot of progress because it didn't come out. I didn't get a whole week of work on it, but I also, that was my first week back at work after the Christmas break. And as I said, it's been really intense as we're kind of getting to the end stage of this first, major milestone end point of this 3-year project we've been working on. So it was a very busy week. I was long days, really tired at the end of them. And so this one it had a bit of a not exceptionally strong start, but it is a start. So I'm excited to work on this the next time it comes up in the rotation. And I think it's really pretty. So that's that. Oh, and I'm using the called for flosses. Okay, so I think that's it for stitching stuff. We had a few questions that have come in on the last couple of videos that we did want to try and answer. So the first one came from Anne. And this is actually a question that comes up every year, and a couple of different viewers ask about this. But Anne said, where does your dog sit to look out the window while the Christmas tree is up? And it's really funny because many of you who come and spend time with us regularly have noticed that our dogs like to sit at the window, particularly Sophie, really likes to sit and look out the window. And it's really fun because Kelly from Pages and Stitches calls her our window guardian, because she always, or almost is always, sitting in the background, kind of keeping an eye on the neighborhood and making sure everybody's toeing the line. And so a lot of folks every year have noticed that our Christmas tree blocks the window. And so folks are like, well, where does Sophie go to look out the window? Which I think is so sweet. And so to put everybody's mind at rest, there's access to the window on the other side of the tree. So they don't have as much window access, but they are able to get around to the other side of the tree. And they're able to see out and keep an eye on things and make sure that everybody's doing what they ought to be doing, and that there's no dangerous Amazon carriers or delivery drivers out there running amok. So it's all good. Also, when we're not filming a video, there is access on the other side of the tree as well. But as you can see, the Christmas tree has gone away for the year. And so they now have unrestricted access to the window and are taking their guardian duties very, very seriously. So there's that. Next question came from Kathy. Kathy said, do you use a stand with your Omnic frame? If so, what stand do you use? So I use a Lowry stand. I've worked with a couple of different stands over the years, and the Lowry is by far my favorite. I really like it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's really versatile. I can use it with a Q-snap. I can use it with different kinds of scroll rods or scroll bars and frames. And so it just works really well. Depending on the size of the hoop, I can also get a hoop in there. So that's what I do with my Lowry. The other thing I really like about it is it's very low profile. So I've had other stands that take up a lot of real estate as far as floor space. And I don't particularly like that. They become a little bit of an eyesore. The nice thing with the Lowry is when I'm not working on it, I can just push it over to the side. And if I take the project even off the stand, it's so low profile that most guests won't even notice it. So I really like that about the Lowry. It's just been a really great piece of equipment for me, and it works really well with my Omnic stand. The one thing or my Omnic frame, the one thing I will say is that with the Omnic, actually I'll get into this because it's part of the next question. And Gary, can I ask you to do me a favor?
No.
Please.
What?
I forgot to grab my scroll rods. They're on the chair in the dining room by the window. It's the long ones. Never mind.
Nope. Let me see what I can figure
out.
out.
Sorry. Oh dear. Yeah, no, forget it. We can just show a picture. I don't know if you can get that far.
Yeah, let's just show a picture.
We'll show a picture.
This is why we need a remote mic.
Yes. Yes, it is. So we had a wireless mic, but that's for another day. So we had a question from a different Anne who asked, I'm intrigued by your Omnic frame. What horizontal length do you recommend? So Anne, I was going to show you what my bars look like, but to be honest, I forgot them, and it's too far away for Gary to be able to get to them with his mic on.
We'll put a picture.
We'll put the picture up. So, but for your information, Omnic has different lengths of rods that you can use with your frame. And mine, I went with one of the longer sets. So mine are what they call the L70. And that measures, I think that's 70 centimeters in metric. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that. But in US measurement or the imperial system, it's about 27 inches, give or take. So it's a good long set of scroll bars. As I've mentioned previously, Omnics are really heavy. And so when you get a scroll rod that's that large, it can be, even with a stand like the Lowry stand, it can like throw off the balance of the weight and be kind of hard to work with. So Omnic does make a product, and I have it, but I'll have to show it some future time because I haven't been able to use it. Because my old set of bars, they were too tall to work with this, but this new set that I'm working with, it's just perfect. But it's an attachment it's an add-on it's extra money, but it's an add-on that you can get that you put on the back, and then you actually put that into your stand, and then you can move your frame back and forth on that. And it helps to correct that. It provides a counterbalance essentially, but it also makes it easier for you to move your frame. So you're stitching, whatever it is you're stitching is right in front of you. And that works really well if you're working, because I think, Anne, you mentioned you're working on a longer full coverage piece. And so when you're working on those really wide full coverage pieces, it's really nice because you can move your frame around without moving your stand around. So I'll see if we can find that and show you what that looks like. Ginger Gerald Stitcher, it's been years since I saw this on his channel, but he's the one he was using this, and that's where I learned about it. So he also shows how it works on his channel. You can go back through his old videos and see that as well. Okay, last question was from Zuko's mom. And she said, I've never seen this type of stitching before on the Victorian house. How do you stitch this without tangling up your threads? That's a great question that we do get every now and then. So I'm using a modified version of the parking technique, which is where you park your thread in a hole where the next stitch would go. I'm slowly moving away from that technique, except in very specific circumstances. So you might notice that over time, I'm having fewer and fewer parked threads when rose trellis in. I'm still using it where the gap of how much space I would need to count to get to the next stitch is big enough that there's a risk of making a counting error. In that case, I'll still use parking because I'd rather just park than have a counting error. Or on that particular fabric, the white stitches, like the whites and the pale grays and all of the stuff that goes into the woodwork and the trim, it just blends into the fabric so much that it's easy to miss a stitch, especially in the really heavy confetti spots. So if it's really heavy confetti or it's something like that where it's blending into the fabric a lot, I'll still park just to make sure I don't miss any stitches. But other than that, I'm not really parking as much anymore. But with the parked threads, to kind of get to your question, I just haven't had problems with them tangling. Now you might have noticed I've got the bobbins that I'm winding my parked threads around, but I'm not really using those to prevent tangling. I'm using those to keep the threads out of my way while I'm stitching, and also just to kind of keep them clean because they'll be parked for a long time before I actually get most of those stitched in. Even before I started using the bobbins, I really didn't have problems with tangling. It's just DMC, and for whatever reason, I haven't had them knot up on me at all. I also haven't heard any other stitchers who are parking mention that that's been a problem for them. So I'm not sure why, but for whatever reason, I've just had really good fortune or good luck with not getting those tangled. So hopefully that answers your question.
There was one more question, actually.
Oh.
Somebody asked what I got for Christmas, and guess I should put this down. I got a Loom Cube Panel Pro, and the only reason why I'm telling you guys about that is because it's just an awesome little light. It's about this big, and I'll put pictures and such of it up, and you can generate virtually any color with it. And there's a couple of effects. One of them's like a siren effect, and there's all sorts of things you can do with it. We're actually using it in this video. I couldn't have it directly on me because there's a big reflection in my glasses. So it's being pointed at the ceiling, which is white. So we're bouncing the light back that way. But at any rate, it's an incredible light, and it's really cool. I got some other camera equipment, and then I think, I know I got one action figure. Who's that guy's name from Star Wars?
You got two action figures.
It's a trap. Who's the other guy?
I got you 2 Star Trek action figures.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about those.
Star Wars guy.
So when I was a kid, Amigo had action figures out, and I had all the Star Trek ones, but I have no idea where they are now. And they recently re-released those. So now I have the entire team. I've got Bones. I got Bones and Scotty for Christmas, but I already had Kirk, Chekhov, Sulu, Spock, and Uhuru. Anyway, so yeah, good action figures, good camera gear collection for me, or added additions for me on Christmas. So that's that then.
That's that. No cross-stitch gifts for Gary for Christmas.
No, I got a bunch of stuff in the back waiting to be done. So I'm not getting any more cross stitches. I got to get those done. It's how I am. No more until I'm done. It's like models. I got like 4 or 5 models that are like in different levels of no more models until those get built. Anyway.
Gary's not a stash king when it comes to cross stitch, and that's okay.
No.
Because I make up for that. Okay. So let's go ahead and wrap up. We'll talk about what we're going to be working on for the next couple of weeks until we film our next update. So first of all, I mentioned in our last video that I am changing up my rotation a little bit as we go into 2023. So really quickly, just for those who are not familiar, for the last many years, I've been doing a 4-week rotation where I have 4 pieces, and I give each of those pieces 1 week a month, and that's my focus piece. I do have, kind of my side stitching, my travel stitching that I get to occasionally. I have a weekend piece, which you saw today, the butterfly port mauve, and Sophie's making some noise back there. Hopefully you're not hearing her. Anyway, but I keep my number of whips really limited. And I don't generally start a new project until I've finished something and I've got an open space in the rotation. And that way I get usually pretty regular finishes, and I don't have a ton of whips waiting for attention. I have had a wild card piece that has been lingering for a couple of years now because it doesn't have a set rotation. And so what I've decided to do is expand and add a 5th week into my rotation. And so over the next couple of weeks will be the first time that 5th place in the rotation comes up. So first I'm going to spend a week, I'm going to work on Wildflowers by the Blue Flower. That's the seasonal design I'm currently working on. And then after I spend a week on that, I'm going to spend a week working on that wild card piece, which you haven't seen for a while. It's Bush Market by Hannah's Needlecraft. And because it's just not gotten a lot of love on a regular basis, I'm really kind of excited to see just how much I can progress that with a full week of focused stitching. As I said, I don't think I'll make any progress on my travel stitching, and then we'll just kind of have to wait and see. It sounds like Gary's going to focus on Captain America, but I wouldn't be surprised if he also gets tempted and puts in some stitches on his human beings piece. So I think that does it for us today. Thanks so much for coming to spend time with us. We hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that 2023 is off to a really great start for you, that you're getting lots of good stitching time. We look forward to seeing you really soon. If you like our videos, I do hope you'll give us hit the thumbs up button. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. You can hit the little bell so you get notifications when we post new videos. And of course, we always love interacting with you in the comments and enjoy getting your comments and questions. You can also send me emails between videos, well, anytime, not even just between videos, but you can send email to globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. And you can also follow progress between videos on Instagram, globetrotting_stitcher. So with all of that having been said, take care of yourselves, give your loved ones hugs and kisses, and happy stitching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.